The city of Cincinnati, a woven tapestry of 52 neighborhoods, rising from the banks of the Ohio River, distinct and diverse, but working together to tackle tough community issues.
Purchasing groceries for area residents and also putting together period care packages for people in the neighborhood who need those as well.
Neighbors helping neighbors, a hallmark of the Queen City.
I think it's kind of rubbing off a little bit. I'm hoping that's my legacy.
Let's talk about the good in your neighborhood in this edition of Let's Talk Cincy.
From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy, presented by Western and Southern Financial Group. Put our financial strength behind you.
Cincinnati is a city with more than 300,000 people, a melting pot of many cultures and backgrounds. Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller, and welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. WLWT is celebrating Cincinnati and all that the Queen City has to offer. We've embarked on a journey to take you to all 52 neighborhoods in 52 weeks. WLWT is looking for the good things taking place in neighborhoods all across our city. In the West End, a family-run business celebrates 151 years in operation. Hidden off Freeman Avenue is National Flag Company, and they know the foundation of what they do is all around them. Stephen Albritton brings us this story.
A family affair.
Aunts, uncles.
In the heart of Cincinnati.
My dad used to work here, brothers. I've had a lot of family here.
Lindsay Breedy, along with many others. Stitch by stitch, hand-make flags of all sorts at National Flag Company. Some going far, some to the military, others staying right here close to home.
It makes you have a lot of pride for your city, for sure, especially some of the flags that we get in. And we represent a lot of the different townships or communities around here. They have their own flags. We get to make those. We get to sell them to them.
Artie Schaller III has grown up inside these walls. Now, as general manager, the growth of nearby areas like Finley Market has trickled back to them, calling National Flag Company a discovery on Freeman Avenue when people are driving by.
75 splits it, so people don't even really know that this area of Freeman exists sometimes.
Although COVID-19 hit their bottom line through their busy season of Memorial Day, Flag Day, and 4th of July, Schaller says it was this community who in part has kept them going, wanting something authentic and Cincinnati made.
When you see a note come through on an email of, we appreciate what you guys do, we're here to support you, it means everything really, that somebody you don't know wants to help you out, help out your employees, keep you going, sort of thing through all this is amazing.
Alone but together with the West End and the rest of the city behind them.
Couldn't imagine it being anywhere else.
Well, the folks at National Flag Company said the sale of flagpoles for businesses and homes has actually taken off in recent months to a point where they have consistently run out of poles. They also hope to resume tours of their building in the future. Well, Cincinnati is a city with a story to tell, and one of its smallest neighborhoods is a perfect example. When you look at Sadamsville, you can almost see and feel the hustle and bustle of generations long ago. Mike Dardis takes us to the neighborhood.
Almost synonymous with Sadamsville, Pete Rose, Cincinnati sports legend, grew up in this neighborhood playing ball here at Boldface Park. Whether it's baseball or buildings, this little slice of Cincinnati is rich in history. Margot Worminski and the Cincinnati Preservation Association have played a prominent role in protecting Sadamsville's past.
It was a industrial, working and middle class neighborhood founded in like the mid-19th century. Largely German-American population and heavily Catholic.
Booming with business during the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, the future took a few unkind turns. The Great Depression shut down factories, then a major flood in the late 1930s. These days, you can almost count the number of Sadamsville businesses on one hand.
So what we'll do.
David Shelton is the manager of Riverside Barbecue along the Ohio. At his place, you can dine in or drive through to pick up groceries or a pack of your favorite beer or snack.
Fresh ingredients, fresh products, serving scratch-made sauces, bringing something a little different to the West Side, something they're not used to.
Paranormal experts call the Sedamsville Rectory one of the most haunted places in America. But sadly, with fewer than 700 people now living in this neighborhood, it's only a ghost of what it once was. Margot believes one move designed for Cincinnati's greater good cost Sedamsville dearly.
The city decided that they wanted to widen River Road, which I can understand. They wanted to give people a straight shot to the west side. But by doing so, they wiped out the Sedamsville Business District. That tore the heart out of the neighborhood. The neighborhood never recovered.
No longer busy, but still offering beauty in the form of pretty parks and awesome architecture. It might never resemble what it once was, but in the meantime, we always have those memories.
That's number 4,192.
Mike Dardis, WLWT News 5.
Well, up next, it might be one of the best kept secrets in the Queen City. A visit to North Avondale when Let's Talk Cincy returns. Our journey to some of Cincinnati's 52 neighborhoods takes us next to North Avondale, a community that prides itself on being a welcoming and diverse neighborhood. It's home to many local politicians, young families, and retirees. At first glance, you'll notice the beautiful historic homes, but we found out why some say it might be Cincinnati's best kept secret. Here now is more from Jatera McGee.
The persistent sound of hard work echoes through the Punch House on Reading Road. Anyone up for a fight is welcome.
All walks of life, children from as young as 4, all the way up to elderly, maybe 70 or 80.
Coach Israel is one of the personal trainers. Today, sisters Elena and Evelyn have the ring.
Great job, keep it up, keep that pace. Once I began boxing and began working out, my confidence just shot through the roof.
He grew up down the street and wants to help kids and adults reach their full potential. So in between punches, he dishes out hope.
A lot of the youth around here are missing a positive male role model, father figures, and I feel there are many of them here. They swings at you. That they can come here and get the things that they may be missing at home.
This gym is where you learn the moment you want to quit is the moment you need to fight.
I love it.
And that you are your only limit.
This is a very welcoming community.
Michael Caporal is president of the North Avondale Business Association and wants the Punch House to get some more neighbors.
We want to see and have the things everybody else has. Coffee shop, an ice cream parlor, a bakery, maybe a little food store.
He sees low crime, high community engagement, and mountains of potential and hopes a developer or two take interest.
You have about a dozen different species just in this small area.
Tyler Wolf's business, Urban Blooms, planted its roots here.
North Avondale is really nice for, a small business to get started, affordable rents. And really nicely centrally located.
The nonprofit builds living walls like this one he shows off in Corryville. They're a staple at the Cincinnati Zoo, local breweries, and more than a dozen other places.
These are very much at the intersection of art, technology, and ecology.
Keeping all of Cincinnati beautiful, sustainable, and hopefully inspired.
These walls are designed to thrive for 30, 40, 50 years even. It's really a living piece of artwork.
Jatera McGee, WLWT, News 5.
Pretty interesting, huh? And those walls cost $50,000 or more, plus maintenance. When we return on Let's Talk Cincy, a historian tells us the important role neighborhoods play in our city. Back in a moment. Now, let's visit another neighborhood in the Queen City. Our Project Community series is highlighting the good in the place you call home. Our journey takes us next to Paddock Hills. Kelly Rippin gives us a glimpse of what you will find in that neighborhood.
Since 1941, generations of families have walked through the brightly painted doors of Sugar and Spice on Reading Road.
Hey, have a seat. How you doing?
Until this March, when the coffee went cold, the breakfast counter was empty and the doors were forced to close. For members of the breakfast crew, it was life-changing.
My mom started bringing us in mid-60s, mid to early 60s.
How many times a week do you think you're here?
5 days, Monday through Friday, sometimes 6 or 7.
Steve Collier is the definition of a regular. Mr. Steve, as he's lovingly known, is one of many regulars at Sugar and Spice every morning.
And I don't like coffee.
You don't like coffee? You just drink it?
I come in here. I have to have some excuse to come here.
You gotta have. Oh, there you go.
As we know, the pandemic hit the restaurant industry hard, especially mom and pop shops like Sugar and Spice. But as Mr. Steve will tell you, this isn't just any restaurant. This is family.
My granddaughter, she's a regular here. She's 3, and she comes in. They allow, she passes out ducks to some of the customers, and and there have been quite a few people that grew up in this restaurant.
So when many in the Sugar and Spice family weren't working and tips were hard to come by, it was their regulars that stepped up, dropping off cash each week to help the staff stay afloat. And when they were able to reopen, another regular made safety partitions painted in the restaurant's signature pink that has become heartwarmingly familiar to those who drive through Paddock Hills.
Why are you on camera?
You come in and you really feel at home. Great atmosphere. The employees are great. All of the customers, we speak to each other, join each other. Whether you know them or not, you still come together. I think that in itself commands camaraderie.
In the midst of the pandemic, Sugar and Spice was able to move forward in opening a second location in OTR. And of course, the regulars were the first to get a sneak peek. While they hope new traditions are started there, the Paddock Hills location will always be their home. Kelly Rippin, WLWT News 5.
Well, as you probably know, Cincinnati is often referred to as the city of 7 hills. I had a chance to talk with someone who knows this city inside and out. Her name is Ann Steiner. She actually teaches a class at UC on the history of Cincinnati. She's also a founding board member of the Over the Rhine Museum.
The history of Cincinnati begins with its geography and topography. So the fact that we are located on a plain within a ring of hills really sets the foundation for the way Cincinnati is going to develop. So Cincinnati develops first in that basin area, which is today made up of downtown, the West End, and Over the Rhine. And when I say the West End, I'm including the neighborhood that we today would call Queensgate, but which was historically just considered part of the West End. So those 3 historic neighborhoods, downtown, West End, Over the Rhine, really grew in that basin. Along the river, other neighborhoods are also kind of ribboning out along the river. So that's where you get the East End, Riverside, all the way out to Sailor Park, right? So those neighborhoods along the river were largely industrial. It's not until 1872 the first incline opens. So that's really when that basin barrier of the Ring of Hills kind of opens up, and everyday people can start to live outside of the basin. And then that's when you really see the neighborhoods fill out. Before that time, the hillside neighborhoods were where wealthy industrialists could have big mansions. And so they were these huge houses on large plots of land, but it's not until the sort of release valve is opened on the basin that all the everyday people, the working folks, can move out and fill in all those suburban neighborhoods like Clifton, Westwood, Walnut Hills, even out to Hyde Park, Mount Lookout, right? So it starts to transportation and having access really is what fills out those 52 neighborhoods. So neighborhoods like, Clifton, for example, where I grew up, would originally have been called a streetcar suburb, right? That the way that you got to those neighborhoods was you went got up an incline, and the incline's connected to other streetcar lines at the tops, and then you would take a streetcar out. And so those neighborhoods were accessed before people had individual cars. Those were accessed almost exclusively by streetcars. And though it was the streetcar lines that really set the development pattern. So if you look at the streetcar went up Hamilton Avenue, it went up Reading Road, it went up Vine Street. And so you would see that those corridors where the streetcar actually traveled would get developed first. And then only later, when people had individual vehicles, would the sort of interstitial spaces get filled in neighborhoods. I have a whole other life role, which is that I'm the founding board chair of the Over the Rhine Museum. There was a wave of Appalachian migration. There was a wave of African-American migration, largely from the West End, where you probably know in the 1950s, about 35% of Cincinnati's Black population was displaced from the lower West End. And a small fraction of those displaced moved to Over the Rhine, setting off a wave of white flight, which left Over the Rhine as largely an African-American neighborhood, beginning in the mid-60s and through up to the present, or even. And then actually we have this most recent wave in Over the Rhine of kind of millennials who have reclaimed it and as a sort of walkable urban place close to the urban core. So Over the Rhine has German heritage, and that's really important, but it also has this incredible wealth of stories.
And now back to our tour of Cincinnati neighborhoods. Weathering the storm, this pandemic has been tough on all of us. Small business owners are really feeling the economic pain as a result of COVID-19. But in the Mount Lookout community, they are looking out for one another. Ashley Kirkland takes us there.
Well, I started back in 1988, right out of college. I usually tell people I was 5 years old when I started, since I've been in business so long.
When Kim Rice, owner of Keepsake Photography Studio in Mount Lookout, first started her business on the square, the layout of the businesses may have been a bit different, but the welcoming community was the same. Rice's studio moved a couple of different locations within the square, but has since landed right in the thick of downtown. The then fresh out of college young business owner started out taking pictures of all of the babies of Mount Lookout. As those babies grew older, she was there for the new milestones.
I had one family who I started photographing the daughter at a year old, and I photographed her every year on her birthday in May, and then photographed the family at Christmas every year for Christmas cards. And when she got married, she wanted me to do the wedding.
Rice not only had a front row seat to watch her community grow, she also got to watch the growth of Mount Lookout's business scene.
A lot of our businesses have been here for decades in some cases. You know, I mean, there are institutions that everybody knows.
The oldest business in the square, Rhodey Funeral Home, established in 1910. Zips Cafe came along in the 1920s. While these institutions are still standing, the pandemic has certainly caused a bit of stumble. And since business is the backbone of the square, Rice and the rest of the council have stepped up to lend a helping hand.
We reach out to our members, we see what, where we can help, what we can do, and sometimes that's, acting as an advocate to the city.
Being shut down and people being afraid, and so it has hurt business, but things are getting busier again, and I think people are coming out a little bit more now.
In Mount Lookout, Ashley Kirkland, WLWT News 5.
Mount Lookout turned 150 years old this year. There was supposed to be a 150th celebration, but due to this pandemic, the festivities will resume in 2021. Up next, the Renaissance happening just east of downtown Cincinnati. The transformation of the East End when we return. There is a renaissance taking place just a few miles to the east of downtown, a neighborhood nearly 200 years old, slowly becoming a destination showplace. Let me take you to the East End, a neighborhood seeing rapid change while still trying to honor generations of history.
Even 10 years ago, this area was a completely different area. It was really decimated in the 80s and 90s by drugs and just multiple floods.
But in 2020, there is new life in the East End. Nick Moats is a big part of that resurgence, a lifelong Cincinnatian. He's a licensed realtor and the president of the Business Association here.
We were the first business back in here since like the 80s. And shortly thereafter, we got Eli's and we just kept going.
In other words, if you build it, they will come.
We've since seen Highmark Bar and Grill come in, Emma's Wine Bar just opened.
Part of an entertainment district that was established.
We did that about 4 years ago, and we created 15 liquor licenses. I think we're down to maybe 4 left out of those.
This historic neighborhood, once called Fulton and known as a popular shipbuilding community, is located in the floodplain adjacent to the Ohio River. But there is a strong attraction to the East End. Today, a blending of the old and new.
I think it's been a slow, gradual process, so it hasn't been like we just came in and pushed the long-timers out. I love all my neighbors. They've been here for a lot of them 2 and 3 generations right behind us here.
Dale Martin has lived in the East End all his life. He loves what's blooming in his neighborhood.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Like I said, I wish my mom could see this because as a kid, it was similar to this. You know, so she would have loved it.
So we have a lot going on that will continue to go on for the next 10 years.
And just another example of the excitement taking place in the East End. Homerama took place there this fall. In that neighborhood, visitors toured 39 homes, each valued at well over $1 million each. Well, that does it for this edition of Let's Talk Cincy. Thanks for joining me. Now, we want to hear from you. Email us your ideas at ltc@wlwt.com. And remember, you can always watch full episodes or get more information on wlwt.com. And you can also listen to Let's Talk on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that does it for the show today. I hope you'll have a chance to join us again next week.